So now let us look at some more effects that we can do with a photo editor like photopea. So I have opened up the image that we had before, and I just cropped it a little bit. And now let's see if we can do some other stuff with this. Now, one of the things that we could do, which would be quite effective, is we could blur certain parts of this image and leave other parts as they are. So I'm going to again use the marquee. I'm holding down my shift key so that I actually have a perfect circle and not an ellipse. Then I'm going to go to the feather thing again and make this 60 now. Then I'm going to invert it, and let's just hide the selection lines, which we just do by pressing Ctrl H. And now let's go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. So it starts with 7.2, but I can actually increase that. And now, what we have now is we have where we inside the circle here, everything is still clean and sharp, but outside everything is now blurred. So let's continue now. So let's make the background of this, we can make it darker like this, or we can make it lighter so that it completely disappears, which actually I think looks quite nice. So this could be one version of how we are going to use this image. Now what I would do in addition would be to do what I did in the previous tutorial and to go in and add a few ellipses here to make certain parts of this even lighter. So I'm just going to do the feather thing again, Shift F6, and let's do this 30. Enter doesn't work, you have to actually click OK, and now let's make her face even a little bit lighter. And then I'm also going to go to the levels, which are here, and the levels also can lighten or darken an image. This here will increase the white, and this here will increase the dark. I don't want the dark to be increased too much. I want the white to be increased. So now let's just export this. And again, we don't have to worry about giving it a name, it will just give it a name. Now let's go back and go back to here, and let's try something else. So I'm going to add a layer, and then I'm going to go to the shape tool, which is down here, and go to the ellipse, and again I'm going to hold down the shift key so that I get a perfect circle and not an ellipse, and I'm going to go like this. Now it's going to automatically put in this red color, which obviously I don't want. So there's opacity and there's fill. These are two different things. Opacity, when you reduce the opacity, you reduce everything. But when you reduce the fill, you only reduce part of what you have here. And if you add a layer style now, which is what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a stroke. So it's inside, it's 2 pixels, and it's white. Okay, now you can see the stroke, yes, a little bit, but you can't see the red because the red is at 0. Now if I put my cursor right on top of this layer and I press Ctrl, then it will select what's in that layer. So let's invert it and go back to the image, and again let's hide the selection, and now let's do this. So now everything that is outside of that circle is getting darker, but then let's also go here and decrease the saturation a little bit. Now let's select inverse, and let's go to the levels and open this up, or actually let's even go one further. Let's go back to hue saturation, and let's colorize this, increase the saturation, and then make the color maybe a blue. Now again let's invert. Again I'm hiding the thing. Now I'm going to make this go a bit darker. Now I'm going to deselect. So I have clicked outside of this area, which has deselected this circle. So, and then again I'm going to do what we did before. I'm going to lighten her face. And also do what I did the other time, which I couldn't figure out how to do. You have to actually start from inside the selection. And now again, going to give this a feather. Again, hide the selection, go to levels, and open this up. And now we have version 2. Now again, let's go back to here. The history unfortunately is very limited. You can only go back so many steps, so I can only go back this far, which is okay. I just need to redo these things. So let me select this again, go here, inverse, so let me go to blur again, hang on, let me just, I forgot to do this here, stroke, but now I'm going to make the stroke actually black. And maybe also increase it a bit. Now I'm going to select, invert, and go to blur. Oops. Well, no. Obviously, it wouldn't be. This is not editable, it just told me. Which in Photoshop, actually, these are editable, but here they're not. So let me just hide the things. Now go to blur, Gaussian blur, and go like this. So now we have another one. And what we can also do, we can, for example, close the eye here and go like so. In which case we now have another one. But what we can also do, let me just check and make sure that, yeah, there are other kinds of blurs which actually take longer to work, like the lens blur, for example. This would be pretty silly to use with a selection because it actually gives you a parameter inside. But let's, for example, let's look at motion blur. Hold on, I have this open here, which is why I'm not seeing it. So now, as you can see, it's giving me a blur which is going sideways. So if I open this and maybe make this less, because with that blur we need something more elegant. So here we have another one. Now let's go back to hue saturation, colorize, go like this, select inverse, again hue saturation, which you just get with Control U, open it up, and maybe also play with the lightness a bit, which I actually don't like to do. I prefer to do this with the curves, but let's just add a little bit here, and we can maybe in this case make the stroke go white and maybe quite thick. Actually no, this isn't working at all because the stroke is too close to the but if we change the blend mode, if we actually make this an overlay, then we would actually get something quite nice, which would be like a second kind of a circle. And I can reduce the opacity a little bit, and then let's see, just need to select this again, come in here and maybe increase the curves a bit, but then go back to her face. We have to keep doing this because as we're manipulating the colors, obviously we're losing some of the value on her face, which we don't really want to have happen. So again, Shift 6, 30, and let's level her up. And the stroke, maybe we can make darker, which might actually work much better, and instead of an overlay we can have it be a multiply. No, sorry, no, that was not the right thing to do. We do need to have the overlay, and now we have another one. So if we go down here, let me put all of these in a folder for you. So it's these here and this here. So this is as big as the preview gets in Windows, different in Mac, I know, but if you just go down like this, then you can see your different versions of how you actually played around with one image. And I especially picked this image because this is actually not a very easy one to play around with. If you have an image that has more mid-tones, because this image from at the very start was just really just light and dark, you know, there were no in-between tones, but with images with in-between tones you will get even more effective results.